The marketplace on Helios 7 stank of engine oil, alien spices, and desperation. Ethan Cole moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his weathered jacket bearing the patches of a dozen different outposts. His funds were running dangerously low after a salvage job gone wrong had left him stranded on this backwater moon. "Last chance before I pack up, human," croaked an elderly Vesperian, her 4 eyes blinking independently as she gestured to a small collection of trinkets spread across a tattered blanket. "Special prices for end of cycle." Ethan was about to walk past when something caught his eye. A small object, no larger than his thumb, seemingly made of an iridescent metal that shimmered with colors that didn't quite belong in this dimension. "What's this?" he asked, picking it up. The metal felt oddly warm against his skin. The Vesperian's mouthparts clicked together in what might have been amusement. "Ah, the key without a lock. Found it in the wreckage of a transport ship near the Azurite Range. Pretty trinket, yes." The object was roughly key-shaped, though like no key Ethan had ever seen. Its handle was inscribed with flowing characters that shifted subtly when he tilted it in the light. "How much?" Ethan asked, already knowing he shouldn't waste credits on useless souvenirs. "For you?" 5 units, the Vesperian said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That cheap? What's wrong with it?" The vendor's facial ridges rippled in what passed for a shrug. "Nothing to be wrong with it. It's just metal. Pretty, but useless. 5 units or put it back." Against his better judgment, Ethan handed over the currency. Something about the key felt significant, though he couldn't say why. He slipped it into his pocket and continued through the market, purchasing the supplies he actually needed before heading back to his rented room at the outpost's dingy hostel. Later that night, as Ethan lay on his threadbare bunk planning his next move, he pulled out the key to examine it again. In the dim light of his room, something extraordinary happened. The key began to pulse with a soft blue glow, growing warmer in his palm. "What the?" he muttered, nearly dropping it in surprise. The key lifted slightly from his hand, hovering an inch above his palm before rotating to point like a compass needle toward the window. Outside, barely visible on the horizon, loomed the jagged silhouette of the Azurite Mountains. Ethan sat up, heart racing. The key's light intensified when he moved it toward the mountains, dimming when he pointed it elsewhere. It wasn't just a trinket, it was a beacon. By morning, Ethan had made his decision. He packed his meager belongings, rented a hoverbike with his remaining credits, and set out toward the mountains, the key secured in an inner pocket where he could feel its persistent warmth against his chest. The journey took 3 days across barren plains. On the dawn of the 4th day, as he approached the mountain range, the key began to vibrate with such intensity that Ethan had to stop. He withdrew it, watching in amazement as it now glowed bright enough to illuminate the rocky ground around him. It pulled him forward, leading him to a narrow fissure in the mountainside that would have been invisible without the key's light revealing it. Squeezing through, Ethan found himself in a long, descending tunnel lined with a material that resembled metal but felt oddly organic beneath his fingertips. The key grew nearly too hot to hold as he reached what appeared to be a dead end. When he pressed the key against the smooth surface, the wall dissolved, revealing the vast chamber beyond. And in that moment, as the ground beneath him hummed to life with awakening systems, Ethan knew his 5-unit purchase had just changed his life forever. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. The chamber awakened around Ethan like a slumbering beast. Lights flickered on in sequences, illuminating a cavernous space that couldn't possibly fit within the mountain's natural dimensions. At its center stood what could only be described as a ship, though unlike any vessel Ethan had encountered in his years of scavenging. Sleek and elegant, its hull shimmered with the same iridescent material as the key, stretching nearly 200 meters from bow to stern. The key pulled violently from Ethan's hand, shooting toward the ship's side, where it embedded itself into a previously invisible seam. A doorway materialized, and the key beckoned him forward. "This is insane," Ethan muttered to himself, but his feet were already moving. Inside, Corridors lit up as he passed, leading him deeper into the vessel until he reached what appeared to be the bridge, a circular room dominated by a command chair and curved view screens showing the mountain chamber outside. When Ethan hesitantly touched the chair, the entire ship shuddered. A mechanical voice spoke in an unfamiliar language before switching to halting standard. Genetic signature accepted. Emergency protocols activated, releasing Guardian. A section of the floor split open, revealing a rising stasis pod. Frost evaporated from its surface as the glass cover retracted, exposing a woman inside, unmistakably not human, though humanoid in form. Her skin had a subtle blue undertone and intricate patterns that might have been tattoos or natural markings traced along her exposed arms. Her eyes snapped open, revealing irises the color of burnished gold. She gasped, then launched herself from the pod with surprising agility, pinning Ethan against the wall with strength that belied her slender frame. A curved blade appeared in her hand, pressing against his throat. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice hoarse from disuse, but her language perfectly understandable. "How did you activate the Stellaris?" "I'm Ethan Cole," he managed, acutely aware of the blade. "I found a key in a market. It brought me here. I didn't mean to wake anything, or anyone." Her golden eyes narrowed, scanning him for deception. "Impossible. The celestial key responds only to Iterian DNA." Her gaze flickered to where the key still protruded from the wall. "Unless..." She released him abruptly, striding to examine the key. "The bonding has already begun. A ship recognizes you as authorized now. Look, I don't know what's happening, but I am Talia," she interrupted, "last sentinel of House Aether. This vessel has been in stasis for over 3 centuries. Her expression darkened. "If you've awakened it, then others will have detected the energy signature. They will come." As if responding to her words, alarms blared throughout the ship. One of the view screens shifted to show the exterior, where 3 unmarked ships were descending toward the mountain. Scavengers, Ethan recognized the configuration. High-end ones. Talia's lips pressed into a thin line. "The Stellaris cannot fall into primitive hands. Its technology is beyond your people's capacity to control." She turned to him with clear reluctance. "The ship will only fully activate for you now. I need you to help me launch it." Ethan glanced between her imperious expression and the approaching threat outside. "I don't know how to fly this thing." "You don't need to." Talia guided him to the command chair. "The ship will respond to your intent, but we must hurry." As Ethan settled into the chair, the ship hummed around him. Not just a sound, but a vibration he could feel in his bones. Somehow, he knew exactly what to do, as if the knowledge were being whispered directly into his mind. The mountain above them began to crack open as the ancient starship awakened fully, preparing for its first flight in centuries, with a reluctant human pilot and its last alien guardian aboard.
3 days into their escape, Ethan found himself sleeping in shifts with a woman who clearly wanted nothing to do with him. Talia maintained a cold professionalism, explaining only what was necessary about the ship's systems and spending the rest of her time in what appeared to be a research lab deep within the Stellaris. They had outrun the initial pursuit, but the ship's energy signature was unmistakable. More would come. "You still haven't told me what the ship actually is," Ethan said, bringing Talia a ration from the synthesizer. The food was surprisingly good, another miracle of Eterian technology. She accepted the meal without thanks. "It's a research vessel. The last of its kind." "That's not a complete answer." Talia's golden eyes met his. After a moment's consideration, she sighed. The Eterians were researchers of reality itself. This ship was designed to study the boundaries between dimensions. And that's valuable enough for everyone to be chasing us. The technology could be weaponized, she admitted. Tear holes between realities, or worse. That's why I remained as guardian, to ensure it would never be misused. That night, as they navigated through an asteroid field to mask their trail, the ship's systems flagged an anomaly. A massive energy storm lay directly in their path, impossible to go around without returning to their pursuers. "We'll have to go through it," Talia said grimly. The storm battered the ship mercilessly. During the worst of it, a power surge caused a console to explode, sending Talia flying across the bridge. Ethan pulled her to safety as secondary fires broke out, extinguished moments later by the ship's automated systems. In the aftermath, he dressed a burn on her arm, their faces close in the ship's medical bay. "Why did you help me at the market?" she asked quietly. "You didn't know what the key was." Ethan shrugged. "It called to me somehow. I've been a scavenger, a trader, a lot of things, but never found a place that felt right." His fingers lingered on her arm longer than necessary. "What about you? 3 centuries in stasis, did you volunteer?" "I was chosen," she said, but something in her expression shifted. "My people were dying. The dimensional research had gone wrong. The Stellaris was our last hope, a vessel containing all our knowledge, all our history. And you're the last one." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the barriers between them seemed to thin. "Yes," she whispered. "The last." That night, they shared stories, Ethan of his childhood on a failing colony world, Talia of the glittering cities of her lost civilization. When she finally fell asleep, exhausted from her injury, she didn't pull away when his hand covered hers. The next morning, they discovered the storm had pushed them into uncharted space, and directly into the territory of the most dangerous faction yet, the hegemony, collectors of alien technology who would stop at nothing to claim the Stellaris. But something had changed between them. As they plotted their course together, Talia's hand occasionally brushed against his, and neither pulled away.
The hegemony vessel dwarfed the Stellaris, its hull bristling with weapon systems. Ethan guided their ship into the shadow of a small moon, buying them time to think. "They've detected us," Talia said, monitoring the sensors. "They're launching fighters." Ethan gripped the command controls. "This ship has to have defenses." "It does, but activating weapons systems requires deeper integration with the ship." She hesitated. "It would require completing the bond," the key began. Their eyes met in understanding. This would forge a permanent connection between Ethan and the Iterian vessel. "What choice do we have?" he asked. The bonding chamber was deep within the ship. Ethan lay on a crystalline platform as Talia activated the ancient machinery. The key, retreat from the bridge, was placed on his chest. "This will be intimate," she warned, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "The ship will see all of you, and you will know the ship completely." As the process began, Ethan felt Talia's hand slip into his. The key melted into his skin, sending rivulets of liquid metal coursing through his veins. He gasped at the sudden rush of information. Star charts, equations, histories of a civilization he'd never known. And something unexpected, emotions, memories filtering through the ship's systems. Talia's memories, from when she had bonded with the vessel centuries ago. Her fears, her loss, her determination. When it was over, Ethan opened his eyes to find Talia leaning over him, concern evident in her golden gaze. Without thinking, he reached up to touch her face. She didn't pull away. "You saw it," she whispered. "Everything," he confirmed. "And you." "Everything," she echoed, her fingers intertwining with his. The moment was interrupted by the ship's alarm. The hegemony had found them. This time, when Ethan took the command chair, the ship responded as if it were an extension of his body. Weapons systems came online. Engines surged with power previously inaccessible. "Hold on," he warned Talia, who had taken the secondary position. What followed was a dance between stars, as the Stellaris demonstrated capabilities beyond Ethan's wildest imagination. They disabled 3 hegemony fighters before executing the dimensional shift. Not quite a jump to hyperspace, but something different, folding space around them in a way that left their pursuers momentarily disoriented. In the calm that followed, Talia came to stand beside his chair. Without words, she pulled him up and into her arms. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, but quickly deepened with all the intensity of their shared experience. Later, in the privacy of what had become their shared quarters, barriers both physical and emotional fell away completely. Their bodies entwined as naturally as their minds had through the ship's bond, each touch a discovery, each kiss a promise. I never expected this, Talia murmured against his shoulder afterward, her blue-tinged skin luminous in the dim light. Finding a human attractive? Ethan teased. She smiled, a rare, precious sight. Finding anyone. I thought my life ended when I entered stasis. I was prepared for that sacrifice. But their reprieve was short-lived. The hegemony's flagship had tracked them through the dimensional shift, something that should have been impossible. They've adapted Tyrian technology, Talia realized with horror. They must have found another artifact. The final confrontation was approaching, and they both knew the Stellaris might not survive it. The hegemony flagship locked onto them with a tractor beam that even the Stellaris couldn't break. As they were pulled inexorably toward the massive vessel, Ethan and Talia frantically searched for options. There's one possibility, Talia finally said, her face grave. The ship's original purpose, to create a dimensional gateway. You said that technology was dangerous. It is, but properly controlled, we could open a portal to a pocket dimension, taking the Stellaris and all its knowledge somewhere the hegemony can never follow. Her golden eyes held his. But the power requirements. One of us would need to remain in the bonding chamber, channeling life energy to stabilize the rift. Ethan understood immediately. A one-way trip. Yes. Then I'll do it, he said without hesitation. Talia placed her hand on his chest, where the key had melted into his heart. No, it must be me. The ship was designed for Tyrian physiology. A human couldn't survive the process long enough. There has to be another way, Ethan insisted, pulling her close. The past weeks had transformed them both. What had begun as reluctant cooperation had blossomed into something neither had expected to find among the stars. Love across species, across centuries. The ship shuddered as the hegemony began cutting through the outer hull. Wait, Ethan said suddenly, an idea forming from the ship's knowledge now integrated with his own. The key didn't just bond me to the ship. It changed me at a genetic level, added Tyrian markers to my DNA. That's why I could activate the Stellaris. Talia's eyes widened in realization. A hybrid signature. What if we both enter the bonding chamber? Share the load between Tyrian and human DNA. It was dangerous, untested, but their only hope. As the hegemony troops breached the outer doors, Ethan and Talia raced to the heart of the ship. The bonding chamber hummed with power as they lay side by side on the crystalline platform, hands clasped tightly between them. Dimensional gateway protocols activated, the ship announced. Warning: insufficient individual energy detected, attempting distributed channeling. Pain lanced through them, both as the ship drew upon their combined life force. Outside, the hegemony forces were getting closer, alarms blaring throughout the vessel. Ethan, Talia gasped, her golden eyes finding his. If this fails. It won't, he promised, squeezing her hand despite the agony coursing through him. And if it does, at least we're together. The ship began to vibrate at a frequency that made reality itself seem to waver. Through their bond with the vessel, they could feel space folding around them, a doorway opening to somewhere beyond normal dimensions. Gateway stabilizing, the ship reported. Unexpected symbiotic effect detected between subject biologies. The pain suddenly transformed into something else, a rush of energy flowing not just from them to the ship, but between them, amplifying and strengthening. Their minds touched through the ship's systems, memories and emotions intertwining. In that moment of perfect unity, the dimensional gateway snapped into place. The Stellaris lurched forward, slipping through the portal just as the hegemony forces reached the bridge. They emerged into a pocket of reality unlike anything either had experienced, a dimension of soft light and impossible physics, where the Stellaris could drift safely beyond the reach of any who would misuse its technology. When they finally disengaged from the bonding chamber, weak but alive, Talia looked at Ethan with wonder. The ship says we can never return to normal space, she said softly. The gateway collapsed behind us. Ethan pulled her into his arms, gazing out the view screen at their new home. A private universe of stars that followed different rules. I'm exactly where I want to be. As am I. Talia whispered against his lips. It seems the last guardian of House Aether and a human scavenger with 5 units to spare have found something neither of us expected. What's that? Ethan asked, though he already knew the answer. A future, she said simply, as their lips met again beneath the light of impossible stars.